Let's take a look at what's going on with Dogecoin. Okay, so we came up and hit my target at .173 yesterday. I was talking about how we had a nice little bull flag, we had a run up, and then we had consolidation, something like this. When that happens, as you can see, we form a little flag pattern. That's what I was saying. Maybe we have a flag pattern. And once we break this resistance going to the upside, what you could do is target from the bottom of the pole to the top of the pole. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. And that takes us to about 1.7 or .173 about. Let's see, something like that. We came up and we hit that target once we broke out of this down trend, this little resistance that we had right here. So the other thing that I was watching is the Fibonacci retracement levels, like I've been talking about in my videos. Okay, so let's zoom out and let me show you what I'm talking about. We have a nice little run up. We get the Fibonacci we have a nice little run up, but once we start having trouble, once we think we're heading down, then we can get the Fibonacci retracement tool, drag from the bottom of the run to the top of the run. It gives us these levels to watch. Sometimes they act as support, sometimes they act as resistance. We came down. I mean, we've been bouncing in between them. We get support on it right here, found resistance right here, got support down here, resistance at this one. Resistance, support, support, resistance, resistance, support. Support a little bit. We broke below it, but we ultimately found support at the bottom down there. And okay, so that basically they act as support and resistance. Right now, it looks like we came into that 38% level, sitting at .173, got resistance on it. So now what I'm wondering, are we gonna be just chilling here and kind of consolidating until we break to the upside? Or do we need to cool off and maybe come back down and touch this next Fibonacci retracement level, sitting at around .156, excuse me. So we might come down, we might have to cool off a little bit, maybe come down here and then maybe get a leg back up. Or I was also looking at this support line right here where we have support. We're still on two uptrends. We also had support, giving me this trend line and then giving me this trend line. So the question is, are we gonna have a nice little move and then do the same thing that we just did, have consolidation, kind of go sideways, maybe do another little flag pattern, and then maybe drag from the top to the bottom of this flag, maybe something like this, and then drag that to the breakout if we could break out. Like I was talking about in my other videos, if we break these Fibonacci retracement levels going to the upside, something like that, then we could get more confident on at least hitting the next Fibonacci retracement level, or setting up these targets. Like I was saying, maybe we'll form a flag pattern. It's kind of hard to tell right now. We just had the little run up so far. We need some more time to let it develop and see what happens. But if we could break out of this Fibonacci retracement level right here at .173, if we could break that decisively and start heading up, then maybe we could start looking at this level sitting at around .195. Or I've also been talking about this pattern too, where if we zoom out a little bit, I'm on the 4-hour time frame, but we could also go to like the daily or something like that. Let's go to the daily real quick. The daily time frame. I'm on tradingview.com right now looking at Dogecoin on Binance, and we have a little falling, not a little, it's actually huge. We have a huge falling wedge pattern. So falling wedge is when it's heading down, but it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. Once we break that resistance level going to the upside, then we could start targeting the previous resistances, and that's where I came up with. That's one of the reasons why I had this target at .173, because we broke the resistance, we came up, we hit that first target the other day, and then we formed that little bull flag pattern. It was a pretty decent bull flag. We formed that bull flag. Then we broke that resistance and started heading back to the upside. Once we broke the Fibonacci retracement level, once we broke that resistance, then that was a good sign that we're going to be heading back to the upside. I put in a little position right here on Robinhood. I actually did close it at the target, but I still have more on Coinbase. So, I still have like a nice little bag on Coinbase and my Ledger and on Gemini and a few different other places. But so anyways, we have this falling wedge pattern. This is what I was talking about. So we have this pattern. We broke out of it right here, going to the upside, hit the first target, hit the second target yesterday. The third target is up here, sitting at around 0.2203. Are we guaranteed to hit this target? No, absolutely not. But usually in these falling wedge patterns, it's not just like this straight line that goes to the third target immediately. Usually we come up, hit the first target, have to come back down, retest trend lines, and then we get a bounce to the upside, hit the second target. It could fizzle out right here. I mean, like, you know, in these patterns, sometimes it fizzles out right at the middle of it. But it's possible, like I was saying, we still have this uptrend right here. We're still on an uptrend technically. We're still on two uptrends, one right there and one right there. So until we break this one going to the downside, then we can start getting a little more bearish or skeptical that we might be coming back down to these levels. Right now, I wouldn't be surprised kind of if we came back down to this Fibonacci retracement level sitting at around 0.157. That's where, okay, so on Robinhood, like I was saying, I had a position where I opened one right here at this Fibonacci retracement level, and then I sold it right here. I closed that position, but now I put up a limit order sitting at around 0.157. This is small amounts of money or whatever, but I'm just kind of playing around with it. And like I said, I have a bigger bag on Coinbase and a decent one on Ledger. It's kind of smaller, but so yeah, let's see what happens though. And like I've been saying though, these Fibonacci retracement levels, they'll act as resistance sometimes, or they'll act as support. We came up back, we broke above it right here, kind of found support on it, broke below it a little bit, but after that we kind of broke out of the Fibonacci retracement level and broke to the next two actually. And I wasn't really looking at this one because, like I was saying, this was the next target sitting at 0.173. It was the previous resistance right here. And then it lined up perfectly with the 38% level sitting at 0.173, 174. This one actually says 0.174, and we went kind of above it. So, but look where we're having trouble though, right at that level, guys. So I think the next thing that we have to look at is, are we going to be continuing moving up, or are we going to do some consolidation? Are we going to have to cool off and maybe come back down and retest the trend line and or the Fibonacci retracement level? Okay, so let's go into, we're on the daily time frame. Let's go into like the 1 hour time frame. This is something I was looking at before I started the video. So we also have this little trend line right here. Let's say something like this. Let me do something like that. We're on the 1 hour time frame right now. We had support all right here. We had support right here. Basically, we were on this uptrend right here. We broke below it at right here, right at that Fibonacci retracement level sitting at around 0.173. We actually came all the way up to like around 0.178. But it's hard to perfectly know exactly what levels. This was kind of like a general area where I was targeting. So we broke below it, but look where we broke below it, right at that 0.173 level, somewhere around there. Now it looks like we're kind of heading down, but it's possible that it looks like we're getting a little green candle. We're not like completely getting red volume candles down here, and it's not just tanking right now. It's actually kind of just chilling, kind of like we did over here. We got a nice little run up, came back down, had to retest, kind of went sideways for a while, and then we started to head back up. Let's see if we could do the same thing here. Like I was saying, I'm kind of curious if we're going to kind of go something like this and then maybe retest this trend line or this Fibonacci retracement level and then get a bounce to the upside. It looks like there's a little bit of room to go down a little bit. I mean, we've just came out of like a nice run compared to what we've been doing like for the rest of the year. We had a nice run, consolidation, nice run. It might be time. We might have to cool off a little bit before we can go back to the upside. We can't just keep going up forever. We guess we can, but it's more healthy for us to do little runs, consolidate, go down a little bit, shake out some weekends, and then break to the upside. Like I said, I did a little trade right here. And then, let me just show you from that Fibonacci retracement level where we broke out of the resistance to the my target was around 24%. Now, if we do from this area down to the Fibonacci retracement, or that next Fibonacci level, it's around 8%. So, so yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, pretty decent percentages. They're okay. They're pretty good, actually. So yeah, let's see if we could come back down, hit that Fibonacci retracement level, and come back to the upside. I mean, it's not impossible that we break through this level and go back down and have to retest this trend line that I was just talking about. But that's kind of what I'm looking at. And like I said, if we don't even go down that far, I don't care. I mean, if we don't even come down and hit this level, I don't care. I'd rather us bounce right here and start heading back to the upside, or maybe do something like this and do something like we did before, form another little flag, and then do something like that. Let's go ahead and, like I was saying, if we drag this, let's do from the bottom of the run to the top of the run, something like that. Drag that to the breakout. Then that gives us another target of around 0.218. Kind of lines up with the next target somewhere up here. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as well. I wouldn't mind coming back up to those higher levels. I mean, I would really like it, actually, but those are some of the things that I'm looking at on Dogecoin right now. But I almost said Bitcoin, but let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin did something pretty good too yesterday, which broke that trend line that we've been watching on this channel. I've just been I've just been slightly looking at I'm mostly into Bitcoin, but we've been just kind of looking at it in reference to Dogecoin, because if Bitcoin's moving up, then Dogecoin's going to move up as well. So let's just get into the technical analysis though. We had resistance, support. We're basically in this channel going sideways for a while. It was kind of moving down slightly, but I was saying that there's a few different places that we have to go before we can maybe come up to around what is it, like 120,000 or something like that. Let me show you where I got that from though. Okay, so we're bouncing in this channel. I was saying if we break this trend line going to the upside, that's going to be a good sign. First target that we could probably do is drag from the top to the bottom of the channel, drag this to the breakout, and we're looking at a target of approximately 81,743. Yeah. The other thing that I've been looking at is this cup and handle pattern, where we have a cup and then we have a handle, something like that. In a cup and handle pattern, you would drag from the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Drag from the bottom to the top, something like that. Okay, so in the cup and handle pattern, it forms a cup and then it forms the handle like a little channel pattern going to the downside. And then once we break that channel going to the upside, something like that, then we could target from the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup like we just did. Drag that to the breakout, which we're kind of breaking out right now. Let's go ahead and drag that, something like this. So we could be potentially looking at 115. I don't know. It depends on where you drag it. Maybe if you drag it from like right here, I was getting targets of around 122, 123. There's 121 right there. So that's like the bottom of the cup to the top of the cup line, because we have resistance right here, which brings me to my next point too. Is I've been talking about how there's like 3 different places where we need to break on Bitcoin right now. We needed to break that first trend line. Let me get my marker tool. So we needed to break this first trend line. We went ahead and did that. Now we're approaching that all-time high. I think that's the all-time high. Yeah. So the all-time high is sitting at around, 73,691. We just approached it yesterday. Let's see if we could break that. So step 1 was breaking that resistance. Next is breaking the top. Once we break the top, then we also have this resistance and this resistance trend line. Let's go ahead and drag that out, that little cup pattern, or cup neckline, or cup line, should I say. And yeah, that would be the third thing that we have to do. We broke this one right now, or we broke it, I think, like a day or 2 ago. Now we need to break the top out of this Fibonacci retracement box. Once we do that, then we need to break out of this resistance line. The top and the resistance line are very close together. So once we break out of this area, then we could start getting more bullish on either that channel pattern sitting at around 82,000, 82,000. Well, actually, it's more like 83,000, but 82,700, somewhere right there, that little channel pattern. Or we could be looking at this cup target, which brings us all the way up to around 122 approximately, somewhere around there. I would like to see more volume come in on this chart. It looks like if you look at the volume, look at like how like dead the volume is been for a while now. I would like to see us get some of these volume candles where we have some big huge spikes. I think it's very possible that if we start breaking this top right here, then we might be seeing that. Yeah, I've been investing in Bitcoin since, let's see, let me see the other chart. I've been investing in Bitcoin since like back here in 2017. I remember when I first when I first bought some Bitcoin, it was right before that crash, the bear market. I was in somewhere over here. I started dollar cost averaging, and then it took a huge dump to the downside. And what I should have done is pour my money in this spot, but I kind of just stopped. I was like kind of holding off. I was trading Ethereum for like dirt cheap for like 200. It was like $200 at the time. I was putting in like $2 at a time just to get like a little 0.1 or 0.01. I think it was 0.1. And, or maybe it was 0.01. I can't remember. But now Ethereum's sitting at like, what is it? 2,000. So that $2 is worth like $20 now or whatever. So, yeah, it's just kind of crazy how far we've come since back in these days. Like I was telling one of my coworkers yesterday, we're about to hit all-time highs, which means that if we break the all-time high, that means that everyone who's ever put money in Dogecoin is up. It doesn't matter where. If you put money over here and it like barely came up over here for right now, then you would still be up, but it wouldn't be that much compared to like down here or even down here, whatever. But yeah, we're approaching those all-time highs, and if any, so yeah, and then if we come up here, that's just gonna be even better. From where we're at right now to the potential target, I'm not saying that it's gonna go there guaranteed, so don't put your life savings in there or anything. You could, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not guaranteeing this. 73%, you know what I mean? So we could be looking at a nice little bull run. I'm kind of surprised that we're still running because it's getting close to the end of the year, and this was a whatchamacallit year. We might have one little last pump in it until the next cycle starts, which means because this year was a halving year. Usually when we get a halving year, we get nice little pumps. Same with over here. This was a halving year. I think it was somewhere right here. Got a huge pump, got two pumps, and then started coming down. We didn't go that far down though. The interesting thing is so this was the halving before. The interesting thing is this top right here was pretty much close to the bottom this time around. So I'm kind of wondering if we'll do something similar where we'll go up, maybe do something like that, and then bottom out where this previous top was. Not guaranteed, but it's very possible. I've been dollar cost like I was saying, ever since back here, I've been dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I think that's the safest strategy, is just putting a little bit of money into Bitcoin every now and then, kind of like a 401k or something. With Dogecoin, on the other hand, though, we get nice huge moves. So this is the one that I like trading off of. And plus, there was a lot of hype back in this area right here. It was it was pretty easy to trade on that area, but right now we've been kind of going sideways for a while, and then we had a nice little run up earlier this year. I think it was this year. In February we had that nice little run up, and then we formed that falling wedge pattern, one of my favorite patterns. We broke out of that, going to the upside, and so now we're looking at those 3 targets that I was talking about earlier. Let's see if we could come up and hit that 3rd target and or even break out of this Fibonacci retracement level box, or this Fibonacci retracement box. If we do, then we can start targeting the previous resistance, but I think that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. Right now, we do have to wait and see what happens. I mean, it's possible that we break this trend line going to the downside, and we have to start looking at this trend line and or the Fibonacci retracement levels again. One of the good things about being in this Fibonacci retracement box, like I was saying, is these levels act as support and resistance, so you can use them to trade off of. So it's kind of nice going sideways and getting these nice little bounces. So, you know, we're basically going sideways in this little zone, but we get nice bounces in between that. You know, those are very good bounces up to the upside and to the downside. So those are some of the things I'm looking at. Let's take a look at Dogecoin and Bitcoin real quick. It looks like we're getting rejected on that. I want to talk about the weekly and the monthly real quick too after this. So we're on the daily time frame of Bitcoin to Dogecoin, or Dogecoin to Bitcoin, should I say. If this chart is going down, that's good for Bitcoin. If this chart is going up, then that's good for Dogecoin. I was looking at this resistance, support, kind of it's a kind of a triangle pattern. We're basically just looking at the resistance and the support though. We broke that resistance, and I was saying the next spot that we might have trouble with, or the next spot that I'd be looking at, is this one up here, and it looks like we're having trouble right at that spot. We had resistance, giving me this trend line right here. The next thing we have to do is break out of this resistance going to the upside, or Dogecoin does, should I say, and then it'll be another nice little trade. Then we can start getting more bullish on the previous top, or there's this previous resistance over here, and if we break out of that, then we can start even looking higher. But yeah, I think that's the next thing we have to look at on Dogecoin to Bitcoin. If we could break out of this, that's going to be good for Dogecoin. We haven't done that yet, and we are getting trouble at that resistance level. So we could be. Let's see what happens though on this chart. The other thing that I'd be probably watching on this chart is we have support. We have that trend line. Let's go ahead and draw it right here. We have that support. We have this support. So technically we're still on an uptrend. Let's go ahead and delete these ones. Let's go ahead and delete this. So technically we are still on this uptrend. We might have to come back down, retest it, and then maybe we could get a bounce to the upside. But if we do break this one, then that's going to be better for Bitcoin. It's going to be less good for Dogecoin. Bitcoin could start, if Bitcoin starts running hard, it might leave Dogecoin in the dust, and then we might go to the downside on this chart. But if we break out of here, then Dogecoin could start leaving Bitcoin in the dust. I mean, even this little area right here, Dogecoin has been outperforming Bitcoin the last couple days, or last week or two. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And you know what else is interesting is sometimes I look at my watch list, and Dogecoin is outperforming a lot of stuff. Right now we're down around 3%, which is actually one of the bigger moves on my watch list. Compared to Bitcoin, it's down 1%. Ethereum is up actually 1%. Ethereum to Bitcoin actually looks interesting too, or even just the Ethereum chart. Let's take a look at that one real quick, just to put this on your guys' radar. I don't know if you guys trade Ethereum or not, but let's see. Let me just look at this. We have a little triangle pattern that's forming right now. We have resistance. It didn't come up and hit it perfectly, but it is resistance right there. And then we have resistance. We have support. Same thing with this chart. I think if we break this resistance level going to the upside, then we could start getting more bullish on Ethereum. We've also been in this kind of down channel right here, looking at resistance. If we break that one as well going to the upside, then that can be a good sign for Ethereum. There's a couple different ways we can target this. One, we have this little triangle pattern dragged from the top to the bottom of that triangle. If we break this triangle going to the upside or to the downside, we can use this little target as a target going to the upside, which takes this one, just that triangle pattern takes us around 3,196. If we break out of this channel right here where we had resistance, resistance, support, support, basically these two trend lines right here, this channel pattern going to the downside. If we break out of that, we can drag from the bottom to the top of that, maybe something like this. Drag this to the breakout, let's say something like that, and that takes us all the way up to 3,755. Let's see. I don't know where this one came from. I haven't really been looking at this chart too hardcore, but yeah, around, I mean, let's say 3,847 or somewhere around there. It really depends on if we broke out to the upside. We're still waiting on that, but I just wanted to put it on your guys' radar that it is kind of testing this resistance, and it is forming a little triangle pattern right here. If we break out, that could break out to the upside on this one. It should be a good sign. And like I said, I'm on tradingview.com. Go ahead and go to tradingview.com, sign up for an account. It's free. Set up your watch list. I have a playlist at the end of the video that I'll show you that help get you started. If you guys have any questions, you could always leave them in the comments about how to get set up, and I can touch on those. But one more thing before we go, I want to show you guys the weekly and the monthly on Dogecoin real quick. I like watching the moving averages on all the time frames really, but especially on these bigger time frames. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and delete that. Okay, so let's talk about the monthly real quick because this one is kind of interesting. Okay, so basically we have this blue line right here. It's the 9 moving average. If we are above the 9 moving average, once we break above the 9 moving average, then we can use it as support, and push us to the upside. When we break below the 9 moving average, like right here, we broke below it. Then when we come into contact with it, it's a little bit harder and it pushes us down. Every time we come into contact with it, it gives us resistance and pushes us down. Resistance pushes us down. Right here, we broke above it, but we just broke above it real quick. So this is like a good example of how it works when it's going to the downside, and this is a pretty decent example of how it works when it's going to the upside. Sometimes it'll just break through it and kind of, go back in between it, up and down, and that's when it's not really reliable, but it's a sign in general. So like right here, we broke above it, got support on it, and pushed to the upside. Right here, let's talk about what's going on right now though. We are above the 9 moving average. I've been looking at this on my channel. Right here, we have that 9 moving average. We are clearly above it right now, which is a good sign. It's possible that we do something like this, break above it, and then break back right below it. But we still have, what I want to see us do is we have 1 day and 12 hours as I'm making this video. If we can close this candle above the 9 moving average, stay above it, and then maybe we can get something like this where we come back into contact with it and then get support on it and get pushed to the upside, like right here. Came into contact, bounced to the upside, came into contact, bounced to the upside, came into contact with it again, and then really got a bounce to the upside. So just being above it is a good sign in general, as opposed to being below it. Once we break below it, then we can start getting a little more bearish. Right now, we are clearly above it on the bigger monthly time frame. So let's see if we can stay above that. I was also noticing how when we do break on the monthly, we don't quite usually stay above it for a long time. We have a few months where we're above it, and then we kind of get nice little runs, and then we kind of come back into it, test it, and kind of usually break it. We had a nice little run, came back into it, broke it, went to the downside. We broke above it, had a nice little run, broke below it, and went to the downside. I'm wondering if we're gonna break above it, have a nice little run, and then break below it and go to the downside again. The other thing is, if we look on the weekly, so the bigger the time frame, the more weight it holds. So now we're on the weekly time frame. We have that little falling wedge pattern. We broke it going to the upside, but we're looking at the moving averages. Let's stay on target. All right, so we have the 9 moving average right here, the 9 moving average on the weekly. We broke below it right here. We're getting resistance, and it's the same thing. Once we break below it, then it's more likely to give us resistance when we come into contact with it. We were testing it. Broke above it for a second, then broke right back below it. Resistance going to the downside. Broke back above it for a second. Resistance going to the downside. Broke back above it. Now we're getting support on it, bouncing to the upside, getting some nice movement to the upside. The 9 moving average is right here. We broke back up, we broke above it over here. Support on it, support on it, support it, broke to the upside, nice green candles. The point is we're clearly above the 9 moving average, which is a good sign. This is on the weekly time frame too. So that's a nice long time frame. If we go to the daily time frame, we're still above it over here as well. And this was another signal for me when once we broke that resistance level. We had that resistance from that flag pattern, something like this. It was like kind of like a pennant pattern, something like that. We broke that resistance right around the Fibonacci retracement level. We broke the 9 moving average right around that level. Let me get that highlighted for you guys. We have the 9 moving average right here. We broke below it for a second and then came back right above it, broke above the 9 moving average, and then started heading to the upside. Point is, we are clearly above the 9 moving average on the daily time frame. Once we break this 9 moving average, then I'll start getting a little more skeptical and saying, okay, maybe we need to take some time before we're actually able to break back above it. Okay, so we broke below right here. It took us a little bit of time before we were actually be able to break through it again. And one of the other things that I like to look at is when it's directly above us, then I like for the 9 moving average to kind of come in and do something like that before we actually break it. Like where we come down, the 9 moving average comes down, and then we're able to break it going sideways through it, as opposed to going through it straight, like right when it's right above us. Right here, we actually did do that though. We broke below it, and we broke when it's actually above us, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that covers it though. I mean, the point is on the moving averages, on the monthly, the weekly, and the daily, it's looking pretty good right now. At least we're above the 9 moving averages. Also the 180 moving average too. The 180 moving average right here was giving us some trouble. Right here we had resistance. We finally broke above it right here. We came back down. We didn't quite touch it, but we kind of retested it, and then we got that bounce to the upside. So I think that 180 moving average came into play too, because a lot of times when things are resistance and we break above them, then they will start acting like as support, just like I was talking about with the 9 moving average. So the question is, I guess the main question is, are we going to continue to head up, or are we going to retrace back to the downside? We're going to have to wait and see. Let's see what happens today. Like I was telling you, on the hourly time frame, we had this little trend, something like this. We actually broke it going to the downside. I'm wondering if this is a sign that we have to come back down and maybe retest either the Fibonacci retracement level, the 180 moving average, or that other trend line that I was looking at. Maybe let's go to the 4-hour. Maybe something like this, where we had support. Maybe we're going to come back down and retest this. But these are the signs. These trend lines, when we have them and we start breaking them, that's the sign that we might be either completely changing direction, or we might need to be cooling off. Like I was talking about though, we have this big falling wedge pattern. I'm still kind of wondering if we're going to come up to the final third target, setting at around .221, 220, whatever, somewhere around there. And or even break out of the Fibonacci retracement box and have a huge bull run like I was talking about on Dogecoin to Bitcoin. If we can break out of this resistance right here, then that's going to be good for Dogecoin. Those are the things that I'm looking at on Dogecoin right now though. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments. I mean, on how to get started as far as looking at tradingview.com and everything like that. But I think that about does it for today's video. If you guys like this video, hit the thumbs up. And if you want to watch the last video, check it out here where I called out that target pattern. And then if you're new to trading, check out this playlist right here. And it'll help you get started at looking at charts in general on tradingview.com. All right, if you guys liked the video, hit that thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in the next one.